Hi, I'm Anthony Gray, and this is Judi Wire, and we're here at the Great Panes Glass Company here in Fort Wayne, Indiana on Wall Street. How are you today, Judy?
I'm doing great, Anthony. Thank you for interviewing me.
And how long have you been here?
Great Panes has been at this location for 22 years, and I have owned the business for 19.
So how did you get into doing stained glass work?
When my son was very young, he was about 6 months old, my husband and I moved to Maine. And my husband said, you need to take some kind of an adult education class. You need to get out of the house. I had always worked outside of the home, and so therefore I think I was driving him a little bit bonkers. So he handed over the adult education pamphlet to me, and he said, find something. And I said, well, I went through the whole list, and he said, well, take stained glass. And I said, I don't even like stained glass. That's how I got hooked. I took the adult education class 27 years ago, 26 years ago. Got hooked on it when we moved back to Fort Wayne. I needed a place to buy glass, so I started buying from the former owner of Great Panes for about a year or two, and then he said, why don't you come to work for me part-time? So I went to work for him part-time, and then after I worked there a year or two, then I had another son, so I took about a year or two off, but I came back in, taught classes, and filled in whenever he wanted to go on vacation. I would come back in just to make sure that there was enough people to cover the shop. So then we moved over here, and it was, I guess, divine intervention. It was meant to be. They decided to put the place up for sale, and my husband and I said, well, I guess now's the time to do it if we want to do it. So we jumped in and bought the place, and here we are.
What's your favorite part about working with stained glass?
Well, I really enjoy cutting glass, but I get tired of it. I think the real challenge is being able to draw what I need to have and then to be able to pull the colors for it. But I think the drawing is what I really enjoy the most. And I remember when I was a child, I used to sit at my grandmother's house, and I would take coloring books and I would just start to sketch exactly what the coloring book had in it. And people would say, oh, you traced that? And I went, no, I sketched it. And I think that was a foundation for what I do now, because if I have it sitting in front of me, I can sketch it and make it over to stained glass, because stained glass is a very specific art. You can't do just any design.
Would you say that you gather a lot of your inspiration from abstract artists?
I gather inspiration from what the customer says they want. 95% of my work is custom designed. So when I have a customer that comes in, or a client that says, I want something with a peacock, but I want it to be more Victorian, then I start to pull out Victorian books, and then I'll find a peacock that they like, and then I blend the two together, and then after I have a design drawn up, they come back in to approve it and bring any type of color samples they want, because there's so many colors in the world and in glass. So if you told me that you wanted mauve in something, mauve to me could be totally different than mauve to you. So I asked them to bring in a color sample, because I probably have 40 different colors of mauve that I can pull from different manufacturers. And if I have a sample of something they like or is in their home, then I can pull the color that will complement their coloring the best.
So do you think that the public is looking for something more satisfactory to them, or something more that they can appreciate from you?
Wow, I would say it's probably both. Because when I have someone that is doing a new home and they come in, they have an idea usually of what they want, and so therefore I'm complimenting their desires for their home. But I have customers that come to me that want to just see or take a piece of artwork home that has been totally designed by me. So I think it's probably both.
You think there's a resurgence in stained glass?
I believe that it has ebbs and flows. And I think now we're probably back into a time where more people are able to afford to do it, although glass is getting more expensive because of chemicals that are in the glass to make it. And lead, we work with lead, and all of your metals, precious metals, have gone up in price too. But I think that the average person can now afford to have a piece of stained glass, where in some times that was not the case. And back in Victorian days, it was not that way. Only the churches and the very wealthy had stained glass. And now we have probably a glut on the market when you go to your big box stores, because the Chinese and the Mexican government, or not governments, but countries flood our country with stained glass, such as lamps and small panels and the such. And so I think that, you know, people can get a feel or an appreciation for a piece of glass, and they may love it, and it may be made in Mexico or China or even the Philippines now. I've seen some from the Philippines and from India. So it depends on the price range that they want, and I find that some people will only come in here and buy if it's made in the United States, which sends a real message to me that they're shopping for local art, which is very nice. I like to see the local art expand.
What's the price for colored glass?
It ranges anywhere in price from around $5.50 a square foot up to $2.50 a square inch. We have a specialty glass that's called dichroic that either transmits or reflects light, and it's a byproduct of the aerospace industry, and it has up to 64 metallic finishes put on it in a vacuum chamber. So therefore it's a really very interesting, unique glass. And I always say you use it like a spice rather than as the main dish, because it's very interesting, but you don't want something made totally out of that because it's overpowering. Most glass ranges in the price between probably $7 a foot and about $27 a square foot. I get glass from all over the world. I have antique glass, and that refers to, antique glass is mouth-blown glass. And that means that it has air bubbles in it and striation marks on it. The only type of glass that has that is antique glass, and it's mouth-blown. That is what antique glass refers to.
Do you say that your work resembles a certain era of artistic and type of historical artistry?
I would say no. I do everything from Victorian, I do Frank Lloyd Wright, I do very flowery Art Nouveau, we do angels, I do contemporary abstract. And contemporary abstract is probably the most difficult for me to do. I have to really get into a design mode and a feel for abstract, where if I have an angel, I know that she's either going to have blonde hair, brown hair, red hair. It's much easier to pick out colors and to design something that is seen object in the world, where abstract just blends everything, and it has to come from more imagination, I think.
End up seeing your work out there a lot? Like, do you drive down the street and happen to look over and see a piece of your work somewhere that you wasn't expecting? And
every once in a while I do. I don't get to go out on installs most of the time. My husband does the install work for me, and so then I don't get to see the work in place. But I was driving through, I believe it was a Windermere edition, and this has been a few years ago. And as I was driving in the edition, I saw this entryway that was just gorgeous. And I stopped, and I backed up, and I looked at it and I went, hey, that's mine. I did that. It was really fun to see that, because it was something that caught my eye. Mm-hmm. And then to realize that I had made it was really nice, that it was one of my artworks that I had done for someone. It was fun.
If someone was wanting to come down and see your store, how could they locate you?
We are located on the historic Wells corridor in the 1300 block of Wells Street. I am open on Thursdays and Fridays from 10 to 6 and Saturdays 10 to 3. Other than that, by appointment. Our phone number is area code 260-426-0203.
Well, thanks, Judy. You have a wonderful store here and a lot of really good pieces looking around. And I just want to thank you for your time.
I appreciate the interview. Thank you.